Alright, we're back again, and this is the companion video for the Reface DX Tutorial Voice Synth Brass example. So let's talk about what we called operator stacks in the article. You'll see here we have our operators 1 and 2 in a completely different grouping than operators 3 and 4. So with algorithm 8, that gives us the ability to mimic what in an analog situation would be a 2 oscillator voice. So let's turn off ops 3 and 4. So now we're just hearing the grouping of operators 1 and 2. Turn off those guys. Let's turn on 3 and 4. So those are our two different oscillators that we're using to make this ensemble type voice. You'll see here that we have the detune for both operators 1 and 2 as +4, and you see here we have the detunes for operators 3 and 4 as -4. So together they're going to be giving us that ensemble effect because the difference is in tuning. So for this brass type voice, again a synth brass voice, sawtooth waves are what we're using here. And again you'll see we have our ratio setting at 1 for all the operators. So we have essentially created two sawtooth type waves. Again, pay attention here. Now you'll see we have the level and feedback set for these. As I mentioned in the article, I chose different values for the levels and feedbacks for each group, so they have slightly different timbres. So they're not exactly the same in terms of how they sound. So I'm going to isolate this again, and so we can hear them just by themselves. I've turned off all our pitch envelope and all our LFO vibrato. So here is our operator 1 and 2 stack. And here we have a level of 98 for operator 2 and 72 for its feedback, and our operator 1 has a feedback level of 32. So let's turn those guys off. Let's turn back on 3 and 4, and you'll see here I have a feedback of only 21 for operator 3. We have a lower level of 90 for operator 4, and its feedback is higher, 84. So compared to our other operator stack, it's a different wave tone. So hopefully you've heard the difference between the way those are set up there. So let's turn back on our modulations here. So now to get the attack byte, we have to have a different approach than what I showed you in the example voice for our solo trumpet. We don't have any modulators left over to create any of the stuff in the attack like we did in that example. So for this voice, what I've done is created the attack byte by doing a fast pitch envelope that's assigned to one of the operator pairs. So we have the 3/4 stack, all right, being modulated by the pitch EG. As you see how I have the little boxes checked, so it's turned on there. You'll see that we have it turned off for ops 1 and 2 in our other stack. So let's turn this off again so you can hear it. This is the little pitch blip. So you hear a little chirp and a scoop in the attack of the sound coming from those operators. I'm going to turn on op 1, turn off op 3, so you'll hear how the operators stack for 1 and 2, that doesn't happen. So that's a very straightforward wave. So now when everything's turned on together, we get that attack byte because of the detuning that goes on just for that short period of time in the attack. So that's the basics for the synth brass example here. Remember, practice and play around with your modulator levels and feedback. Don't forget to play around with your carrier feedbacks as well. By playing around with all these values, again, you can really make some drastic changes in the tone to better suit the needs that you want to use this sound for. A couple of things here. Let's show you the second trick for how to change the timbre or the brassiness of the sound without having to resort to changing all the core, level, and feedback parameters. We're going to turn our effect 1 on to delay, and you'll see I have a depth of 30 and a time of 6. So this is not too much depth in a fairly short time. And what this does is creating a phase cancellation in the sound to make it sound a little more metallic. Turn it off. Now that might be a little subtle, so let's go ahead and really crank it up. Let's turn this up to a value of 60. Now you can hear a whole bunch of really quick echoes. So now we're going to turn down the time. So now we actually don't hear those as discrete echoes. So let's listen to the sound. Now we'll turn that off. Turn it back on. So by playing around with these short delay settings and depth, you can change the metallic characteristic of the sound, and that's without messing around again with levels and feedbacks that we set in the operator modulator settings. So, for final polish, turn on your reverb. And that's our Synth Brass example voice.